Tanny is a hopeless loser with no chicks, until his quiet existence becomes the sole obsession of a crazy chick, whose desperate attempts to bone him set off a chaotic chain of misunderstandings and a desperate, heartfelt confession. It all begins with Suzuki carrying out an extensive makeover of her face as she prepares for school. She ignores the fact that she might run late, and instead makes sure that all the colors are in the right places to avoid participating in the tournament of clowns. After she is done, she excitedly walks to school and greets literally everybody she meets on the way, as if she were competing for Miss High Morals. The moment she enters the classroom, her attention immediately shifts to the quiet dude, Tanny, who sits beside her. Unlike the others she's been greeting, it takes a moment to greet Tanny, and when he replies, she heaves a sigh of relief before taking her seat. Two of her friends soon show up to talk about her heavy makeup, but she really doesn't care as she gives excuses for why she picked the type of makeup she used. Suzuki wastes no time switching her focus to Tanny again, until her friends scold her for always disturbing Tanny. Unknown to the two, Suzuki is secretly in love with Tanny, which is why she is always all over him. Suzuki had fallen for Tanny because he is someone who speaks his mind when he needs to, even though he is the quiet type. Suzuki recalled the day they changed seats that put him close to Tanny. This was easily the best day of her life because she finally got the chance to speak directly to Tanny. Suzuki is fully immersed in her imagination until her friends call her back to reality. They ask her a question, and she ends up adding Tanny to the equation. Her friends then tell Tanny to let them know if Suzuki is pestering her, but surprisingly, Tanny lets them know that he doesn't mind. The moment Tanny utters these words, Suzuki's head almost blows apart like an inflated balloon. Suzuki is shivering all over, wishing that she could get the chance to speak to Tanny as she wants. Suzuki is still recovering from the sudden emotional burst when her friends suggest that they visit their favorite burger spot after school. Suzuki plans to refuse the invitation, since she has her homework to attend to, but seeing the excitement on their faces, she has no choice but to accept. Later on, one of the hopeless dudes in the class, Marimo, shows up, asking Suzuki if he can copy her homework. Being the nice girl that she is, she hands over her homework. During lunch, Suzuki's friends talk about Tanny casually, but every topic about him sends Suzuki into a frenzy. At some point, she almost chokes on her drink, and when they ask her what she is wrong, she covers it up with a lie. Later that day, Suzuki finds herself stuck in the restroom, thinking about her miserable life. Before she knows it, almost everyone in the school has left. She finally summons up the courage to go home, but everything goes crazy when she reaches the locker room to find Tanny. Suzuki almost faints on the spot, but she gathers the courage to speak to Tanny, asking him why he is at the school so late. Tanny replies that he had committee stuff to attend to. Suzuki then asks him which way he usually takes when going home, and Tanny reveals his usual path. Suzuki is completely blown when she realizes that they take the same route. She manages to gather the words, and she asks Tanny if they can walk part of the way together. Moments later, the two are seen on their way home. Tanny remains quiet, dude that he is, while Suzuki starts firing questions everywhere, trying to make the conversation lively. She keeps jumping from one thing to the other until she reaches her visit to the burger shop. Suzuki talks about how big the burger was, but suddenly, it dawns on her that she might be yapping too much, and the conversation might have gotten really boring for Tanny. Not knowing what to say, she suddenly asks Tanny if he would be willing to grab a burger with her. Suzuki immediately suffers a brain freeze when Tanny says yes. Suzuki can't process what she just heard, as she tries to figure out if Tanny was only playing along to match the mood. However, it dawns on her that Tanny is not such a person. Suzuki starts to panic in an attempt to find something to say back to Tanny to make sure the moment doesn't die. In the process, her hand suddenly touches Tanny's hand, and she turns red like a tomato. She freezes up in fear, and Tanny just stares at her without saying a word. In a sudden turn of events, Tanny grabs her hand and holds her. Suzuki almost could not believe what was happening, as she concluded that she must be dreaming. At the same time, she realizes that her palm is sweaty like crazy. Even her heartbeat is so loud that it can be heard outside. She loses sense of time until they finally reach the crossway, where they are going their separate ways. Tanny drops her hand, and this is when she finally comes back to her senses. From then on, Suzuki totally loses her memory, as she has no idea what she said to Tanny or what he said to her. Suzuki even got home and couldn't make it to her room, causing her to sleep in the lobby until her troublesome brother showed up to disturb her. For the rest of the night, Suzuki remains a shadow of herself with her brain failing to process the events of the day. She suffers panic attacks every minute before she finally gets to sleep. The next morning, she finally wakes up when she falls off the bed. She casually picks up her phone to check the time, only to see that she is running late. She rushes out of her room, screaming about how she has always been early. To make it worse, she realizes that she is the only one left at home, and her mother had left a note for her, telling her that it is fine to be late sometimes. Since she is already late, Suzuki decides to just do her things slowly. By the time she is done, she arrives in the afternoon, and her friends tell her that she should have just taken the day off. Just as she is settling, Marimo shows up, throwing a heavy question at Suzuki. He asks her if she and Tani are dating because one random dude saw them walking home together. This question hits Suzuki really hard, leaving her in a tight space. She can't believe that her undefined relationship already has eyes all over it. Trying to engage in damage control, she screams at Marimo, telling him that it is not what they think. However, she utters the words just when Tani enters the classroom. Suzuki freezes when she sees Tani pick up his book and walk out of the classroom. Without a doubt, Suzuki realizes that she might have just crashed the relationship she was still trying to build. While they are in the general class, Suzuki remains uncomfortable because Tani heard her denying the relationship. Desperate, she thinks of apologizing to Tani in front of everyone, but she doesn't have the guts to go through with this. As the day goes by, Suzuki remains horrible and a shadow of herself. During the badminton match, all she can think about is Tani and the possibility that he is feeling terrible because of what she did. When they return to their class, Tani continues doing his thing, while Suzuki trembles in her seat, looking for a way to talk to Tani. However, she can't clear up the misunderstanding while everyone is present, ultimately compounding the misery. Just as Tani is about to leave for the day, he walks up to Suzuki, telling her to forget about yesterday's events, while also apologizing to her. After saying this, he walks away, but without realizing, he just shattered whatever hope Suzuki had left. Suzuki remains mute while the whole class is having a good time. His friends walk up to her, and this is when Suzuki finally comes clean, revealing that she is in love with Tani. Her friends are shocked to hear this, and Suzuki continues by revealing that she was the one who invited Tani to walk home with her the day before. With tears in her eyes, she asks her friend if she did something wrong. Marimo freaks out when he realizes that the whole thing with Suzuki and Tani is actually serious. Being the best friends that they are, the trio tells Suzuki to chase after Tani because he is already on his way home. They motivate her, telling her that she can catch up if she runs really hard. Suzuki immediately takes their advice, and she makes a run for it, as she tracks down Tani's walk path. At the same time, Tani is thinking about Suzuki, and he believes that he was the one who mistook the whole situation because Suzuki was always nice to him. Moments later, Suzuki catches up to him, and she screams at the top of her voice, telling Tani that she loves him. Tani is shocked as he turns around to see Suzuki running up to him. With tears in her eyes, Suzuki expresses herself, talking about how she felt and her fear of telling Tani what she wanted. Suzuki finally lets go of her, and she lets Tani know that she always wants them to be together. The confession comes as a shock to Tani, but at the same time, he mans up and lets Suzuki know that she makes him really comfortable and would like it to continue that way. With the two confessing to each other, everything finally works out for them, thus removing the tense energy that has been a wall between them.
The following day, Tani heads to school minding his business, but he suddenly meets Marimo, who greets him with the energy of someone who just won the lottery. The sudden enthusiasm catches Tani off guard, and it immediately makes him wonder if Suzuki might have said something about them. Before Tani can overthink it too much, Marimo casually lets it slip that he already knows about the whole thing. Tani explains that he had no intention of telling anyone since he wanted to protect Suzuki's reputation and avoid unnecessary gossip. Marimo brushes this off without a second thought and tells him not to worry, revealing that Suzuki already went ahead and declared her love for Tani in public the previous day. He explains that Suzuki's reputation was never in danger. If anything, it is Tani whose value has suddenly skyrocketed thanks to that bold confession. Hearing this makes Tani feel a little awkward, and he ends up praising Marimo for being so outgoing and confident. Marimo happily accepts the compliment and hands Tani a piece of candy like it is a reward. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, Suzuki is having the time of her life as she chats excitedly with her friends about a soapy novel. While she is completely invested in the dramatic love story, Satu and Watanabe are more interested in getting updates about her and Tani. The two of them start commenting on how Suzuki usually carries entire conversations on her own whenever she is with Tani. Watanabe even offers her an article that is meant to help her hold better conversations. As Suzuki reads through it, reality hits her hard, and she realizes that she has basically been a broken gong the entire time she has been talking to Tanny. It also dawns on her that their relationship might have already moved into something deeper. Just thinking about it fills her with a confusing mix of excitement and fear. After spiraling for a bit, Suzuki suddenly makes up her mind and vows to become the ultimate girlfriend. When Sada asks how she plans to do that, Suzuki freezes after realizing she has absolutely no plan. In the end, she decides the safest move is to ask Tanny to walk home with her again after Tanny arrives in class. Sada asks him if he is comfortable with them hanging around him, and Tanny lets them know that he has no problem with it. Suzuki expresses her dissatisfaction with his answer, but the moment he leans in and asks what he should have said, she panics. Seeing this, Sada nudges her to do what they had talked about earlier. Suzuki tries to back out at first, but after a bit more pressure, she finally asks Tanny if they can walk home together. After school, the two of them leave the classroom, with Suzuki marching ahead like a malfunctioning Terminator. She greets everyone she passes, making people wonder why she is walking like a robot. From behind, Marimo and the others watch, with Marimo commenting on how Tanny somehow manages to be invisible. Once outside the school, an awkward silence settles between them, and Suzuki spirals, thinking of what to say. She notices Tanny trying to make a move, so she decides to take advantage of it, but he suddenly backs down, leaving her hanging. A few moments later, they reach an intersection, and Suzuki bids Tanny farewell, but he suddenly grabs her hand and asks if she can spare a few more minutes. They settle down at a nearby park, where he explains how Marimo approached him earlier that morning. Tanny admits he has been conflicted about hiding their relationship from others, prompting Suzuki to quickly apologize for making it public without his consent. To her surprise, Tanny confesses that he does not mind at all. Suzuki then realizes she may have been too self-absorbed without paying attention to how he felt. With sudden resolve, she boldly declares how much she wants to tell the world about the two of them. The outburst leaves Tanny stunned, and he casually invites her out on a date. They burst into laughter when they both mention the same hamburger spot at the exact same time. Tanny tries to search for other hangout ideas but freezes in embarrassment because of his browser history. Just like her, he had been researching how to talk to a girl. He attempts to flee, but she catches up, calling him utterly adorable. As Suzuki enjoys the moment, Tanny wishes he could sink into the ground. Then, unexpectedly, he leans in and whispers how much he loves her, and Suzuki nearly overheats. Later, as they head home together, she complains about a sore throat while still floating on cloud 9, and Tanny hands her a mint candy. The following day, Suzuki is still riding high as she happily boasts to her friends about her upcoming date with Tanny. Sata suggests that she should take a bunch of pictures during the date, but Suzuki refuses because she usually looks like an ugly chicken in pictures. After school, she runs straight into another crisis as she stares at her closet, unable to decide what to wear. The next day, her nerves are so bad that she arrives at the meeting spot 30 minutes early. While waiting, she sweats uncontrollably and considers waiting inside a restaurant but panics at the thought of missing Tanny if he passes by. Just then, Tanny shows up wearing his usual plain clothes, but to Suzuki he looks better than a K-pop idol. He had arrived 20 minutes early so she would not have to wait, only to realize she beat him to it. A little later, they reach the burger spot, and Suzuki grabs her burger with excitement, then suddenly freezes after remembering how terrible she looks while eating. Watching how naturally Tanny eats makes her overthink, causing her to nibble at her food awkwardly. Sensing her discomfort, Tanny reassures her, and Suzuki immediately goes back to devouring the burger like a hungry bear. Shortly after eating, Suzuki drags Tanny around the mall to explore before their movie starts. After a while, they head into the theater and Tanny notices Suzuki stealing glances at him. She boils over in embarrassment when he asks her about it. During the movie, Suzuki ends up crying through most of it, while Tanny stares at her, completely unaffected by the emotional scenes. Once the movie ends, Suzuki immediately rushes off to the restroom to fix her makeup. When she returns out, she spots Tanny standing near a photo booth. She wonders if this is her chance to take pictures like Sata suggested, but her nerves get the better of her. Tanny then snaps her out of it by suggesting they check out a souvenir shop instead. He explains that they should pick matching items to remember their first date, and this instantly sends Suzuki over the moon. Later on, they sit down to rest, and Suzuki starts talking non-stop about the movie, but cannot remember the names of any of the characters. As she rambles, Tanny calmly fills in the missing names, leaving her impressed by his memory. However, she realizes he did not really understand the movie at all and teases him about it. Tanny quickly apologizes, and Suzuki suddenly feels bad, wondering if he even enjoyed the movie in the first place. On their way back home, Suzuki feels satisfied because she genuinely enjoyed the date, but it slowly dawns on her that everything they did was mostly what she wanted. After getting off the train, the two of them walk in complete silence, and Suzuki cannot help wishing that the road home could somehow stretch on forever. Acting on impulse, she suddenly grabs Tanny's hand only to let go immediately, but before she can pull away, Tanny firmly takes her hand. They continue walking with an awkward tension settling between them. Suzuki starts swinging her arm, and to break the silence, she tells him that she really had a lot of fun on their date. She then apologizes for not really factoring what he likes into their date. Tanny calmly tells her that even though they did everything she enjoys, he still had fun simply because he was with her. He explains that those kinds of activities are not usually his thing, but he does not mind doing unfamiliar things as long as she is involved. Hearing this honest confession sends a rush of excitement through Suzuki, and without thinking, she blurts out that she wants to take a picture with him. Tanny agrees immediately, and Suzuki quickly positions him and tells him what to do. After taking the photo, she says goodbye, but stops when she notices him staring at her. To her shock, Tanny suddenly comments that he likes pandas while staring at her shirt, causing Suzuki to run off, completely overwhelmed. She gets home still floating with happiness, rushes to her room to check the photo, and is immediately crushed when she realizes she looks like a smiling giraffe. The following day, Suzuki's friend Azuma asks Suzuki about the plushie and is surprised to learn that it is from Tanny. She is more shocked to learn that they are dating. Azuma is a bit jealous because she has terrible luck with boyfriends. Just then, they walk in and join the others in talking about ideal types. Suzuki happily explains that she likes someone with a bad boy aura. Taira, a sad loser struggling with an identity crisis, spirals while thinking about types, and he concludes that girls just want to date popular guys. Suzuki rushes over to greet Tanny when Marimo reminds her that she still has a boyfriend. Taira is the last of their friend group to find out the juicy news, but he can't wrap his head around the bizarre mash. Basically, he feels that Tanny is a loser and way too different from Suzuki's ideal type. He finds it even more weird that all of Suzuki's friends are now comfortable with Tanny. Later, he privately asks Suzuki why she chose Tanny, and she simply says that Tanny is cool. Since Taira is too dumb to understand her reason, they decide to leave it at that. After her conversation with Taira, Suzuki playfully teases Tanny with canned drinks, while Taira watches in shock and disgust. Later, Suzuki is chatting with Watanabe, and Marimo rushes in, begging for Suzuki's homework. He quickly switches and asks Tanny, but before Suzuki can stop him, Tanny already pulls the homework out. Taira is disgusted that Suzuki's friends are already taking advantage of her boyfriend. He seems to be the only one in the group struggling with coming to terms with this new dynamic. After school, Taira continues to struggle with his identity crisis until Azuma approaches him. He ignores her and is still spiraling when Suzuki and Tanny pass by on their way home. The sight of them walking together without any care in the world puzzles Taira. Meanwhile, Tanny decides to talk to Suzuki about her ideal type, and she realizes he had been listening in on their conversation earlier. She wants to know if it bothers him, but Tanny denies it, making her suddenly start chuckling. She explains that she has a lot of different feelings for different types, and Tanny just happens to fall into one of them. Even though he doesn't get it, Tanny accepts her explanation, as he recalls she usually calls him adorable. Tanny faces anxiety from Suzuki's explanation to the point of having nightmares because of it. To make matters worse, his grandmother refers to their cat as adorable, making him wonder if that is how Suzuki sees him. He concludes that if her idea of a cool person is strong, then he is far from that because his bones are literally made of jelly. Elsewhere, Suzuki and her brother argue over space, and then he drops her off close to school on her bike. Tani is jealous when he sees them, and Azuma suddenly appears beside him. She notices the look on his face and calls Suzuki to help him out of his misery. Suzuki quickly fixes her terrible hair, and from her conversation with Azuma, Tani is relieved to learn that the bike guy was Suzuki's brother. On their way to school, Azuma and Suzuki learn that Tani is an only child, which finally makes sense to them. Just then, Tara is surprised to see Tani sandwiched between the two girls, causing the start of his usual identity crisis. After school, Suzuki is unhappy when she learns that Tani has to stay back for library duties. After telling Tani that she will be heading home alone, Suzuki sneaks into the library like a brainless ostrich. Tani catches her, and she awkwardly explains that she just wants to see what the library looks like. As it turns out, she has never set foot inside a library. She worries that she might be called a stalker, but Tani assures her that it is fine. Tani is happy to see her, but he doesn't want to make her wait too long, so he tells her to leave if she gets bored. Suzuki misunderstands, thinking he wants to get rid of her, so she gives him space. She feels bad for being too clingy, and Tani notices that she might have misunderstood him, so he tells her to wait for him until the library closes in the evening. Suzuki is over the moon and proceeds to read a book while waiting for him. Meanwhile, Tani sees another introvert reading several books on how to make conversation with people. Their eyes soon meet, and both of them immediately sink into their shell. Tani starts thinking about Suzuki and how he is terrible at conveying his feelings to her properly. Later, while waiting outside for Tani to finish up, Suzuki sees her teacher riding a tiny bike and teases him about it. When Tani arrives, she tells him about it and laughs uncontrollably at the thought of a big dude riding a small bike with wheels the size of a pancake. She tells Tani that she finds the teacher adorable, but he can't relate to her joke. Tani then asks Suzuki what she means by always referring to him and others as adorable. He understands that cats are adorable, but he doesn't see how a chubby teacher can be considered adorable. After thinking about it, Suzuki explains that she uses it as a term of endearment. Later, they stop at their usual intersection, and Suzuki proudly brandishes the book she picked up from the library. She tells Tani that she will be visiting the library more often, and Tani tells her that he has read the book. Suzuki is happy because they just might have similar things to talk about. She tells him to recommend more books for her to read, even though their tastes in books might be different. Suzuki explains that she wants them to have a little in common and also get to know each other's preferences. After she finishes explaining, Tani is moved, and the atmosphere between them suddenly becomes heavy. Suzuki's heart beats furiously when Tani suddenly rubs her head quietly. Even though he can never become her ideal type, he still wants to make her heart flutter from time to time. Suzuki boils red when he cups her face in his hands, telling her that she is so adorable. There and then, she forgets how to breathe, only giving one-word answers when he talks to her. Back home, Tani rubs his cat's face as he did to Suzuki, while Suzuki is still floating on clouds because of him. The following day, Marimo greets Tani with the usual rowdy tap, and Tara appears like a ghost. He tells Tani about his conversation with Suzuki and how she referred to Tani as a cool guy. Tani's plain reaction shocks Tara because he was expecting him to be over the moon for receiving a compliment like that from his girlfriend. Tara experiences another crisis when Tani suddenly calls him a good person, and because of his reply, Marimo concludes that Tara is a nutcase. Later, Suzuki, Watanabe, and Sata see Tani smiling while talking with Tara and Marimo. The fact that Tani is smiling shocks them because he never smiles. Suzuki is very jealous and wants to hoard Tani for herself. She believes that she is funnier than the boys, but Tani has never smiled or laughed at her jokes. Thanks for watching till the end, and make sure to hit the bell for future episodes.